I've got a case right now where the father of a 5-year-old little boy hadn't seen his son in 4 years. His kid doesn't even know who he is. His son has some vague concept of what a father's supposed to be based on, I guess, his friends and what he sees in his friends' lives. But he really doesn't know this father, his own father. Never had a relationship with him. This kid would be scared to death if dad were all of a sudden thrust on him and him on dad. What would happen if you dropped this kid off at dad's house for weekend parenting time? The kid didn't know who dad was. This strange man all of a sudden is standing at the door wanting to hug him and tell him he loves him. That'd be devastating for that kid. So what do you do in a situation like that? Dad now wants parenting time with this kid that he hadn't seen since the kid was 1 year old, and the kid doesn't even know who he is. Well, stay tuned for part 2. We're going to talk about the different options that we have in this case and what I think the judge is going to do. So here's part 2 of that story. Dad hadn't seen his kid in about 4 or 5 years. Kid was 1 year old the last time he saw dad. Doesn't know who dad is. Now dad wants parenting time with the kid. Well, the best way to handle that is to slowly acclimate the child to his father. And in this case, I suggest that mother and father get together and plan some type of outing for maybe a Saturday afternoon where they can both be together and the child can see both the mom and dad together and know that mom's okay with this man, that this isn't someone that the kid should be afraid of. Do that for a couple of weekends and then have dad alone with the child for a couple of weekends. Let the child get acclimated to dad. And if that works out okay and the kid seems to be comfortable, then slowly start overnights, every other weekend, maybe one night. And then finally get into a situation where dad can have some normal relationship and normal parenting time with the child. That seems to be the best way to work it out. Your stuff isn't worth much. You know, I had a mediation a couple of months ago where the parties listed out all the stuff that they owned and they fought about who was going to get what for about 3 hours in that mediation. They put a value on everything. It's a little bit high. When I figured up what the value was and the money that they spent mediating that issue, I figured that they spent more money on attorney fees and mediator fees than the stuff they were fighting about was worth. Folks, your stuff just isn't worth that much. You know, I probably spent $15,000, $20,000 over the last 15 or 20 years buying sofas, TVs, appliances, things like that. But, you know, if I put all that stuff out on a curb now, it probably wouldn't even bring $1,000. The things that we think are worth something because we spent a lot on it have depreciated. Nobody wants my sofa that I've been sitting on for the last 15 or 20 years. It's just not worth a lot, and it's certainly not worth spending money fighting over. Nobody wins in mediation. You know why? Because mediation is not to win or to lose. Mediation is to settle your dispute. Most good mediators will tell you at the beginning of a mediation, if you walk away feeling like you didn't quite get what you wanted, and the other side feels the same way, then it's been a successful mediation. Because mediation is not so that you can win your case or lose your case, it's so you can settle your case. And most good mediators will mediate between the parties and will try to resolve the dispute. Now, nobody really wins in a divorce case. Yeah, I mean, some people may get alimony or may have to pay less alimony and they feel like they won. But in reality, you're breaking up a marriage that may have been a 5, 10, 15, 30, or 35-year marriage, and nobody's going to win in that situation. You're going to cut your losses and you're going to move on with your life. I had a case a few months ago where mom could not, for whatever reason, get her child to school on time. This child had over 40 tardies in one semester. And for whatever reason, and we don't know why because mom really didn't have an excuse, mom could not get that child to school on time. That child was chronically late by 10, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes late to school. Well, the judge heard the case and he said, you know, that's educational neglect. A parent has the responsibility to get their child to school every day and to get their child to school on time. What the judge did in that case is he flipped custody. He gave dad custody of the child during the school week and gave mom the weekends. And guess what? Dad got the child to school on time every single day. Folks, when we have children, children are a blessing, but they're also a responsibility, and we've got to live up to that responsibility. A couple of years ago, I had a law office in a high-rise in downtown Memphis. I was up on the 29th floor and I overlooked the Mississippi River to the west and the Memphis International Airport to the south. I remember watching those planes fly in, thinking to myself, man, I could be a senior captain by now if I'd pursued flying. That looks like so much fun. I didn't realize it, but the senior captains of those airplanes were looking down at the skyline of Memphis, looking at the courthouse, thinking to themselves, man, I wish I'd gone to law school. I could be going to court every day trying cases. That seems like so much fun. You know, the grass always seems greener on the other side, but it rarely is. I had a client a few years ago that left her husband and 4 kids to be with another man because she thought the grass was going to be greener on the other side and she was going to find more happiness. She didn't. She was miserable, screwed up her whole life, lost her family, lost her husband, all because she was pursuing greener grass. Folks, sometimes the grass does look greener on the other side, but it rarely is.